I think it's a fair statement to say that most of us that work in this profession, covering college football, knew there were going to be some debates on the expanded playoff. What is the actual cutoff of teams that we're supposed to have? When do we start the postseason? Do we end the regular season early to add in more games that are meaningful because of now people are only looking at the CFP and other things like NIL, the transfer portal length, when you can actually see players potentially opt out? They were all going to be hashed out. And eventually we would get to the actual games itself. But I never thought we would have to go this far to defend the group of five. Because of anybody that loves college football, loves the group of five, they also realize that the group of five is not winning a CFP anytime soon. And so today, now we have to talk about, should the group of five get its own college football playoff and if it's beneficial, and also why exactly it's not supposed to be in the same relevancy as the Power 5 level. But if you're new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. What are your overall thoughts on the group of five potentially having their own postseason? What are your overall thoughts on them being a part of the expanded CFP? And is there a middle ground to where we can see them actually coexist together? Make sure you tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, group of five fans, Power 5 fans, college football aficionados everywhere, because we're on the race to become not only the #1 YouTube show talking about our favorite sport, but the #1 college football community here on YouTube. Make sure that you're following me on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Mr. Cole Thompson. And if you want your question answered live on air, go ahead and slide in the DMs or email me at colethompsonwriting@gmail.com. Rate, like, subscribe, and make sure that you continue to tell everybody about this channel. Should the group of five have their own college football playoff? I'll save you the trouble. Yes, they should. They absolutely should. And it's not a knock on the group of five. In fact, I can tell you right now, as somebody that lives, eats, and breathes this sport, I don't have a life outside of basically the NFL, my wife, my dogs, and college football. There are very few things that excite me on a Tuesday night, like Maction. There are very few things that keep me captivated on Wednesdays, like Wednesday, middle of America games. There's very few things that keep me going late into the evenings as I'm editing and doing these videos, the way that college football does. And I love that we have that with the group of five. The thing is, the group of five is never going to be at the same level as the Power 5. And I can adjust to this by just talking about my own life. I live in Texas. I've lived here for the last 20 plus years of my life. When we grew up, there were these things called divisions in high school football. And then you look at the divisions and they're called divisions for allocation purposes. What this means is that every single school is put into a certain criteria, a little box. And there are multiple state champions in every single sport, in basketball, in lacrosse, in hockey. Yes, there is hockey in Texas, and football especially. 1A does not play the 6A schools, and the 6A schools don't play the 3A schools, at least not in the championship. Now, there will be games that are scheduled where you go up a division or you go down a division, and you use that as an advantage to you, and sometimes you will watch that upset happen. My wife works at a 5A school right now. They're moving up to 6A. Their baseball team just won state last year. And they know going into 6A next year, because of how much resources they've had, the expansion of the school, all of that is going to play in their favor when it comes to more relevancy, but it's also going to hinder their success because of they are not ready to be at that same level. Sam Houston is a perfect example of this. And James Madison is an outlier, but Sam Houston is probably the more exemplary answer to this. They've won multiple FCS championships. They were great a few years ago. They, in fact, just won an FCS championship during the COVID-19 year in the spring. They're good. And then they make the jump to the Conference USA level, Power 5, Group of 5 level, FBS. They leave the FCS. And they struggle. And I know what Sam Houston can be. And I know that Sam Houston, led by the right people and with the resources that they have, is absolutely going to be a team that we talk about. But it's going to take some time. They're eventually going to get to that next stage to where we can bring them up in conversations when it comes to potentially being a Conference USA champion. We can bring them up in conversations that they are landing players that at one point probably were either phenomenal talents that didn't last at Power 5 schools, or they're players that really have bought into what the Bearcats are selling. It's not like James Madison that just came out of nowhere and immediately found success. That's the normal pathway. Well, imagine taking that. Imagine taking the Power Five, the group of the 5A, 6A, 7A level in the state of Texas, and just bringing that up to the college football playoff mantra. You would call yourself stupid. You would call yourself asinine to believe that a 4A school could take on a 6A school and go week after week after week. It's 6 weeks of playoffs in Texas. It's 6 weeks and hold their own against kids that are going to be playing Division One at the highest level of football, and their backups have already gotten phone calls about potentially visiting campuses the next year to when they go into their senior year and their full-time starters. It's not going to happen. That's why we have the separation of divisions in the state of Texas. It's why we have the FCS playoffs. You see FCS schools go travel every single weekend to schools in the SEC, places in the Big Ten, even in the ACC, the Big 12. You've watched it. Southern Utah. How about a place like Austin Peay? How about Chattanooga? They've all gone through the SEC. You want to know why? Because they're tune-up games. And they're okay with that because if they know at the end of the year, that game means little to their success about winning a national championship. And so it's probably going to mean the exact same thing when it comes to Group of 5 level, when they have to play against those schools. And I know what some people are going to say real fast, but what about Cincinnati? Yours truly was all on board with Cincinnati being a playoff team. And I had to learn the hard way, no, they didn't deserve it. Now, did they deserve to be on their own level and have a shot of competing for their own championship? Yes. Were they a good team that was featured with a ton of players that ended up going to the NFL, like Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, Ivan Pace Jr., even Desmond Ridder and Jerome Ford? Yes. Were they on the same level of competition when they took on Alabama? No. And it was very evident going into that fourth quarter that Alabama was going to coast their way back to another national championship appearance. That's just the case. And so nobody out here is saying that you can't go ahead and win against a Power 5 school. It would be asinine for us to say on any given Saturday, you can't get that win. But the problem is that people are saying you're using that as ammunition for inclusion. No, I'm sorry. Here's the deal. I go into a job opportunity and I go into an interview to become a lawyer with no bar, with no mediation, with no localization. And I walk into a room full of lawyers and try to convince them to hire me. They're going to tell me no because of I don't include in their process. There's certain criteria that have to be met. I walk into a room with a bunch of my buddies that are all engineering majors, and they're talking about the gyrospheres of translations of things that are happening when it comes to building apartment complexes and new designs across across our state when it comes to bridges. I have no idea what they're talking about. And so it's nice for them to include me, but I'm just sitting there with my hands stuck out. Ooh, what's going on? What's going on? And that's the college football playoff when it's with a Group of 5 school. Nobody's saying you can't win on a Saturday. You could beat up on an Iowa. You could easily go ahead and beat Oklahoma State. South Alabama did it last year. You can't tell me that Toledo can't win against an Illinois squad. They nearly did it this past season. But you're now taking that context and trying to wrap it around and turn it into they can do it 6 straight weeks in a row. Because eventually that's what it's going to be. Right now, we're at a dozen teams. Right now, we are at a dozen teams. It's not stopping. It's not. When you look at the revenue, when you look at the money, you look at the money, when you look at what will be with the ratings, it's only going to continue to expand. We've already talked about a 14-team playoff that's going to come in effect in 2 years. And 14 is going to turn to 16. 16 is going to turn to 24. 24 is going to turn to 36. And then lo and behold, we have the NCAA tournament, which, by the way, if anybody out there wants to use that logic, you're out of your mind there too. Because of, yes, you'll watch a Loyola Chicago. And yes, you'll see a George Mason go on the run of a lifetime. You'll get the St. Peter's. Let the Peacocks fly. Terry would be proud in New York City. But you know what they don't do? They don't cross the finish line. They don't. They get right there and their hearts get ripped out by a good team. A team that's really well competitive and a team that's well equipped to have everything done their way. But now you're saying, oh, we just want inclusivity. No, you don't. If you weren't getting paid the money that you would to be able to be a part of a CFP and any one of these games, you would not schedule them. But at the end of the day, for you as a fan, do you ever see a dime of that? Do you ever get any bit of that back in your pocket? Say you're a student at the university. Does your team making the college football playoff, losing in the first round to say, I don't know, let's just go Alabama or LeBaron, let's just do this. Let's say you win one game and you're Wyoming. You're Wyoming. The Cowboys find a way to complete the Mountain West trifecta. And you beat Iowa week 1. And now you're scheduled to play Alabama week 2. Do you get any of that money? Do you get any of the revenue that comes into your school? Does it go toward your student loans being depleted a little bit? Oh, no, it just goes into the boosters' hands. Oh, it just goes into fixing the program's hands, which you could do at your own league. And at that point, you would be doing it. And you know what else is really funny that nobody I see him has brought up? Because Paige brought this up on his show. The Athletics brought this up. On Threes brought this up. Multiple people have. You want to know what the group of 5 playoff would do? It would allow players to stay at their schools and compete for something more. Because the thing is, when you're a group of 5 school playing against a Power 5 program, you know what the coaches are doing on that sideline as they're winning and getting ready to prepare for the next game? They're scouting for next season when kids enter the portal and now they become available in hot commodities. You think that's going to happen? That's 100% going to be a case. So when you say you can win national titles, you can be a part of something prominent, and then for your last year, you can go play at the Power 5 level. If you don't think that you're good enough to make it into the NFL here, then you do so. But you give yourself a reason. But now, instead, all we want to say is inclusivity. There's a reason why there is separation in things in life. And sometimes it's a positive. I'm not saying that the group of 5 can't win against Power 5 programs, but do yourself a real favor. Look at the last 10 years. 10 years of complete and total Power 5 versus SEC and Big Ten schools. Who are you beating? Who are you going up against? Because it's not Bama. It's not Georgia. It's not Ohio State. It's not USC. It's not Oregon. It's not Tennessee. It's not Texas. It's Mississippi State. It's Oklahoma State. It's Illinois. It's Indiana. And those are teams that are not going to the playoff. You know who is going to the playoff? Bama, Georgia, USC, Oregon, Auburn. And you can't beat those teams. I know, you beat Auburn last year. Cool story. You're not going to do it probably anymore moving forward. Those are the teams that you're beating. Do you really think that you can hold your own against them? Do you really think that you can do that on a consistent basis and then get to the semifinals and go, yep, Alabama, we're ready to take it out? Cincinnati was a perfect roster at the group of 5 level. They got the doors blown off them in the second half. Really, from the second quarter on, they held their own for 15 minutes. And then they were shown the door. And they were put into the woodshed. And Alabama fans cackled their way, all waiting for the next week. That was it. That was the bottom line, people. I love the group of 5. Group of 5 has been one of my favorite things in college football for years. I will always root for the group of 5. I will actually spend most of my Saturday nights watching now, no longer Pac-12 After Dark, but probably more so group of 5 games out in the Mountain West. I am so excited for that. But there is a separation. There is. And if you give yourself a reason to actually look further past this, simply look at the entire grand scheme of things on how money and relocation and allocations won't be going toward your school the way it used to, I think a lot more people would get on board. So do me a favor. If you're a group of 5 purist and you do want what's best for your sport, understand that playing at the college football playoff with every other major brand, it isn't doing wonders for you. It's actually hurting you. And in the process, what you're also doing is you're watching yourself get a front row seat to a scouting clinic for Power 5 schools that see your top talent and go, yep, I want him on my team next year. He can play well against us. I want him to play with us instead. When you go ahead and you separate the two, it's going to keep a lot of the kids back in your campus. It's going to keep a lot of kids back in your system. And it's probably going to do a lot more wonders when it comes to your recruiting than you actually give credit for. So, in my opinion, I understand the reasoning of why you want inclusion. I understand the reasoning why you want to be considered a team that can do it all. But it hasn't happened in the NCAA postseason. There's never been a Cinderella making it all the way as the belle of the ball. It's not going to happen in college football either. Give me your thoughts down below. Do you think the group of 5 should have its own postseason? Do you believe it should be a part of the normal CFP? Make sure you tell your friends, your family, mortal enemies, best of bros, college football aficionados everywhere about this channel, because We're not on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking about our favorite sport, but more so the #1 college football community. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, folks, later.